Welcome to Armchair Experts on Expert. I'm Dan Rather. I'm joined by the Minister of...
What?
I don't know. The Duchess of Duluth.
What
Weren't
am I
you the
the
Minister of something?
Yeah, I was the Minister of Magic.
No, that wasn't it. That's Terrence Posner in The Sorcerer's Stone.
I was the...
Minister of something.
I was.
Minister of Mice.
Yeah.
Maybe the Minister of
Oh,
Mice.
sounds right.
We have a fucking radical guest on today.
Yes.
Billie Joe Armstrong.
Green Day.
Green Day, one of the longest running major arena kick-ass rock bands of all time.
We're in a kind of a music
Yeah, we're in our music
zone.
phase.
We're in a music phase because we have Billie Joe, and then next week we have some music, Armchair Anonymous.
And we had Batiste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have someone scheduled to also.
Someone else?
Yeah.
Okay. Easter egg.
Yeah, Easter egg.
Well, I loved meeting him. It was so fun. And most importantly, Green Day has a new album out called Saviors, which is fucking kick-ass. And it's out January 19th. So definitely check that out and look for the videos because we've seen a few of the videos and they're awesome.
Very, very cool.
Please enjoy Billie Joe Armstrong.
He's an armchair expert. He's an armchair expert. He's an armchair expert.
Hello there.
Hi. How's it going?
Welcome. Great to meet you, brother.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
Yeah.
Hi, Monica. Nice
Nice
to meet you.
you.
I was checking out your non-alcoholic beer.
Oh, yeah. Do you want me to get you one out of the fridge? Do you like NAs?
Yeah.
It's very, very good.
My family are huge fans of the show.
That's nice.
Yeah.
We're always so flattered to hear that.
It's me and my two best friends from Detroit. I'll give you a guess. You might be one of the few people that can crack it. If it's from Michigan and it's called Ted Seeger's, what do you think that's about?
Bob Seger?
Bob Seger
Yeah.
and who would be Ted from Michigan?
Bundy?
Close. Nugent.
Oh, Nugent. Oh, yeah.
The Nug.
Oh, yeah. Close. That's
What could
amazing.
be better? Oh, here we go.
Cheers.
Oh, this is fun. This is my first time cracking a can.
Fun.
That's good.
As far as NAs go, it's like as close as you can get to the real deal.
Yeah. I've been drinking a lot more NAs now.
What's your favorite? Well, let me guess. 0-0? The Heineken?
I like it, but it makes me pee nonstop.
Sure. That's going to happen.
Yeah.
What else is in the hopper? Pun intended.
I like the new Guinness Zeros. They're really good.
The pub drought, it tastes almost identical. As I remember, it's been 19 years, but I'm going to hit you with something that I hope immediately connects us.
Okay.
It involves one of the most magical nights of my life. I'm in Oakland visiting my cousin in 96. He's a musician. He introduces me to this dude, Jason White.
Jason White's like one of my favorite people on the planet.
Okay, so he and I meet and it's an explosion. He's from Arkansas.
Yep.
He's like a proper good old boy. He comes from that thing, but he's left it, as have I. And we locked eyes and he and I went so fucking hard. This is back when I drank. Introduced by my cousin. We leave him long in the dust at some point. We end up at a piano bar. There's hours of the night I don't remember.
Probably at the alley in
Yeah,
Oakland.
it was the alley. In fact, my cousin just sent me a picture of it. Yeah, the dueling piano bar. I felt like I met a soulmate. And then I never really saw him again, but we spent like 48 hours together.
Who's the person that he would know to make the connection?
My cousin, Justin LeBeau. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but
I
he's
know
in
that
film
name.
school in Detroit. He had a band back in the day called Current and then Ottawa. He moved to Oakland and then somehow he became friends with Jason. And then when I was visiting, he's like, I know this dude now. I think you're really going to get along with. And it was him. And I just had like a whirlwind romance with him.
Yeah. Me and him, we travel on the bus together. I met him in Arkansas in 1990.
Okay.
So he was booking shows and then he booked our show at this place called Vino's.
And did you have a similar explosion of like connection with him?
Yeah. Immediately, because he played me some of his band and he could sing, and I was like, this dude is really good. Then he ended up a couple years later moving out to Oakland, and then I have a side project band, Pin and Gunpowder.
Yeah, that he replaced someone in, right?
He replaced them, yeah.
You were both singing and playing guitar?
Yeah.
Oh,
I understand what you mean. We were like immediate kindred spirits about everything.
yes.
It's just we had the same sense of humor. We had the same background.
Yes, super funny. I will say, when I isolate the things I liked about the punk rock scene in Detroit, it was most people were super into being funny. I think that was actually the thing. There was an irreverence that was built into the scene.
Yeah.
So many of those kids I knew in that time ended up being like the funniest people I ever met. Him being one of them, were just instantly hysterical.
He joined Green Day in 99.
Oh, he did.
He's our second guitar player.
Oh, still.
Yeah.
This makes me so happy because I have to say, I had that night with him. I ended up getting sober. And I remember thinking, I wonder how it worked out for that too, because he seemed to go like I did. And you just wonder, if you've had one of those party nights with somebody.
He's living in Berkeley now, and he's married, has 2 kids.
Oh, wonderful.
And he's funny when we're on tour. He'll go out like, where's Jason? Like on our days off. And we always say he's going bourdaining.
Okay.
So
Vinny Bourdain.
Yeah. So he's checking out every hot spot.
Is he like a foodie now?
He's total foodie and a
Yeah.
cook. And the drinking he's definitely more mellow.
Yeah. Well, that's a given. It was unsustainable, at least the version I experienced with him that I too was participating in.
Yeah. When you grow up being like a Replacements fan, it kind of goes hand in hand, the romance with self-destruction and booze
Yes.
and great rock and roll.
I know. Do you find yourself, I'll watch these movies like Leaving Las Vegas or some of these tragic stories and they're over and the people I'm with are like, oh, that was, and I'm like, I'm sorry, but it looks good. I hate to say like it looks good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what that gene is in us.
We just made a video a couple days ago. I'll show it to you after we talk. I think you might find it interesting.
Okay, great. Now, the other thing from that night that I remember, he divulged to me because he found out I'm super into cars and he liked cars. Again, there's a rare thing in the punk world to care about cars.
I love cars too.
And he told me you had a Galaxy 500.
He had the Galaxy.
Oh, he had a Galaxy.
Yeah, I convinced him to buy it.
Okay.
At the time, I had a 62 Chevy Nova and a Ford Fairlane.
A Ford Fairlane. That's what the story he told me involved. And this could be apocryphal, but I want you to know I've been holding this story for 30 some years, which was you got pulled over, you were in the Fairlane, and the cop came up and then he recognized you. And then when you took off, you laid rubber and everything was good. And I was like, that's the goal in life. And I'm here to report that I had that experience in downtown LA where 2 cops flagged me down to say hi. Then the light turned green. I let it rip. And I was like, oh my God, I lived out my Billie Joe fantasy.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Do you remember that story or do you think it's apocryphal?
Well, I've had a couple stories. I have gotten a DUI before.
Okay, right.
But there's a couple times where I had a light out and I had a couple drinks and I got pulled over and I'm just like, act straight, put your hands on the wheel.
Yes.
It happened to me on Hollywood Boulevard. I was in my Nova and the cop looked at me. He was like, I pulled you over. And I go, because I got a light out. And he goes, yeah. Looks at my license. He looks at me and he goes, okay, go on. And I definitely didn't pull rubber that time.
Yeah. You were like, oh no, I thought we were going to jail. No, we're not. We're going to tiptoe home and this would be the last time ever.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I'm so delighted though that Jason's still in your life and he's doing good and he's got kids. That makes me really happy.
Yeah, he's one of my closest best friends.
Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, let's start in the suburb Rodeo. Is that where you grew up?
Yeah.
And we're pronouncing it Rodeo, right? It's not rodeo.
Yeah, it's a totally unincorporated town.
Here?
No, it's in Bay Area, West Contra Costa County, or the locals call it West Cocoa County.
Oh.
There's these 3 small towns. It's Rodeo, Crockett, then Port Costa, and Port Costa is really tiny. They're all really small. Everybody went to one high school there. I was supposed to graduate with like 60 people or something like that.
Oh, no kidding. Not small. Your dad drove for Safeway?
Yeah, Safeway truck driver.
And a musician?
He was a jazz drummer.
And did he play a lot as a kid?
He played pretty often, but he used to play all the clubs in the Bay Area. He had some of his gear stolen. And then when I started getting back into music and singing, he bought some of his drum set back. He started playing with me when I would do gigs, because I would start off as just like a singer when I was like
5, right?
Yeah.
There's a recording of him singing.
I made a record.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and Kimmel played it one time when you were on.
Yeah. So I started playing with him then, and then I picked up the guitar when I was 8, so I was jamming with him then, too.
How fun.
Yeah, it's a really important memory.
I bet. And you're the youngest of 6.
That's right.
3 older sisters, 2 older brothers. We both have an older Dave, by the way. How old is he? How much older were the boys?
David was born in 69. I was born 72. You're 75.
Yes. How did you know that?
I Wikipedia.
Okay, great.
Wow, you
And
did
then
your research.
I did my little
Yeah,
research.
sure, sure.
That's I
Some
was just wondering.
cursory.
I was wondering how old you were
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I was like, is this guy an Xer or a millennial? I was like, oh no, he's an X. So I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah, yeah.
And then my oldest brother was born in 1950.
Yes, so this is pretty staggering. Your parents are born in the 30s. Mine are born in the 50s, and we're the same age. So I was like, oh, you were late for them, probably.
Yeah, she had her first son with a different husband.
Oh, this is scandalous.
Yeah.
Wow, wow, wow.
She's gone through a few. She was a hot little commodity.
Good for her.
And she married my dad in like 58, and they didn't start having kids too fast, but then it went 63, my sister showed up. 66, another sister. 68, another sister. 69, my brother. And then 72, me.
Wow.
So it was like bang, 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 bang. They were hard at it.
So the oldest brother is a full, what,
22
years older than you?
Yeah, the distance in age between me and my oldest brother is wider than the distance in age between him and my mother.
Whoa.
Right.
She had my brother Alan when she was, I think, 18. And I was born, he was 21.
Oh, my Lord.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
And so mom was 42-ish.
She was 39 and she was about to turn 40.
And were you conscious of the fact that your parents were older when you were a kid?
Yeah, because a lot of my friends had parents that were more 60s generation. I wouldn't say all hippies, but I would see old photos of my parents when they were teenagers.
They were teenagers during World War II.
Yeah, my mom moved from Oklahoma. She's one of 12.
Holy shit.
She moved to California when she was about 12 or 13, and it was during the war effort. They worked in the shipping yards building ships and bombs in Richmond, California, and Oakland. She's born during the Depression. She went through World War II, the Korean War, lost a brother in the Vietnam War, went through the 70s having kids and lost a brother to AIDS. So she's seen so much evolution in this country. She's not even really like a culture vulture kind of person, but the kinds of things that she's witnessed through her life, even television.
She's born into an era with no TV, and then now she lives with fucking AI. It's kind of insane.
Yeah.
She doesn't seem to have a global picture of that, or doesn't give a shit, or is not impressed by her own story. Is it mind-blowing to her? Because I feel like I want it to be mind-blowing for her.
I think it is. She reflects a lot on her life and she's really sharp. She's 91 and she's in great shape. She walks every day and exercises.
Is she still in that area?
The house I grew up in.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah, every once in a while you'll hear a story about one of her brothers or something like that. It's like, whoa. A lot of my family was military because you got drafted and you went. And my oldest brother got drafted for the Vietnam War. I hope I'm not getting him in trouble right now. But he said he went in and he had his papers, went into the office, and then all of a sudden the last second he goes, I'm out of here. He left.
Oh, wow.
Thank God they never tracked him down.
He didn't go to Canada or anything. He just stayed
No,
local
he just stayed.
and ignored the
Yeah.
mail.
And hoped nobody would track him down.
Kind of like I do a jury summons. Just kind of ignore it.
I'm going to pretend.
I know.
You gotta serve your time. Not in a war, but yeah, in jury duty, I do think
Yeah,
you should.
I'm like, don't they have to prove I received it? This is my defense in my mind. I'm like, oh, if they do come for me, I'll go like, well, I never got one.
If you
How could
ever
you prove I got one?
serve
I
Yeah.
haven't signed for one yet.
Yeah, I haven't looked in a mailbox in 30 years.
Exactly. My apologies. I'll come now. Okay.
If you serve one, you'll see why you should serve one.
I did. I've
Oh, yeah.
gone twice.
Well, then don't
and
you
then
feel
every
an
time they kick
obligation?
me off. And then I think, why are we going through this song and dance? I'm just going to skip it.
Did you watch the show Jury Duty?
Yeah.
So good.
Oh my God. What a nightmare for the people to find out they're just getting hoaxed. you know?
I know. Oh my God.
Do you think you have younger brother syndrome?
Oh, I wouldn't say syndrome, but it was very well known. I was the baby in the family, and I sort of looked like the baby in the family. My sisters used to play dress up with me and stuff like that. I was like a little doll to them.
Could have been a serial killer from that.
Yeah. And then my brother, we shared a bedroom our whole life.
Here's my little brotherism. Everything he did was the cool thing to do. He's why I skateboarded. He's why I snowboarded. My first show was exploited at
Oh,
11
God.
years old. I have no business being at exploited, but he's driven us there. He's 16.
Hell yeah.
Whatever he did, I did. And then in 6th grade, he sent me to school and I had a really radical haircut and I was wearing all hardcore stuff. That became who I was. I didn't pick it. He was doing it and then I did it. And lo and behold, it totally worked. People thought I was extra confident.
I had an older sister the same way, my sister Anna. I got really into metal early on. And she's like, why don't you come to these shows with me? I was 13 and I saw REM play in a gymnasium
No
in
way.
Santa Cruz. And then I saw the Replacements. She took me to see like 10,000
Oh,
Maniacs.
10,000 Maniacs.
That was the first time I had heard music that felt important. It made me emotional in a
Yes.
different way than more of the party hair metal stuff that I was listening to. And then it caused me to go deeper because all of a sudden I became obsessed. And I became a massive Husker Du fan.
Yes, I've heard this about you.
Yeah.
What happened to me is I got handed this genre of music and I just did it because my brother was doing it. But every now and then a melodic one would seep in, right? Or I discover, let's say, mostly everything on Discord where I go like, oh, there's some melodies. I really want this so bad. I was like starved for melody and beauty, probably.
After the hardcore scene burned itself out because it became kind of the who can play faster songs Olympics. And like who can have the fastest drummer. Like any scene, it starts to kind of wear itself out. But I think after that, with post-hardcore and the label that we were on in the Bay Area scene, more people were getting back into melody. One man from Discord I saw, Gray Matter.
Sure.
I love them, and I saw Soulside.
I had a Soulside tattoo. This used to be the sun and then the flames from the Soulside album. But then that was tribal, and then tribal tattoos got really embarrassing, so I had to cover it.
Oh, man. You should have lived into Tribe, man.
Yeah, I was a little bummed when that evolution happened in tattoos where every dude on the Jersey Shore had a huge tribal piece, and I was like, oh, I got to get rid of this thing. No one knows this is Soulside.
God, what if that happens to crows? What are you gonna do?
Everyone in the Jersey Shore gets crows and hogs. I'm sure they have them. I think I'm destined. Can't escape it.
Can't.
My whole body is a walking inside joke, like all of my tattoos.
Right. What's the most embarrassing one you can think of off the top of your head? And granted, you now have come to love it most certainly.
I don't have anyone I'm really embarrassed of. There was kind of a little gang of young punks back in the day. It was called Death Wish Kids. That was from a Poison Idea song. It was DWK. Then we started calling it like Dudes with Kielbasa
Sure. Right.
and like Deadly White Kung Fu, stuff like that. That's the one I get the biggest kick out of.
Right. Now, this is a very sweet story. It does make me think of maybe the Chili Peppers meeting Young, but you met Mike, who's now the bassist, when you were like 10 years old in school. I'm sorry. We have to also address really quick. Your dad dies when you're 10.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I feel like that's probably related to meeting Mike, or somehow there's something there.
I think about that often because I met him. It was in the 5th grade and we were at a middle school. It was 5th through 8th. We were both sort of this class clown. And right from the beginning, we were very close. We always talked about music, even at that young of an age, but that was the same month that my dad passed away. When I met him, he wanted to be a comedian. He was like a 10-year-old trying out material on me, and it was pretty funny. I mean, he's a huge comedy guy. Yeah, I think that there's definitely correlation between gaining this friend and losing a parent at the same time.
Well, I would imagine it would be the difference between having a friend because they're there, why not, it's entertaining, versus very much needing a friend.
I think we both needed each other. We could have deep conversations. It's so funny. We used to go into my backyard and we used to pick up these leaves that we thought were magic leaves and that we can control the wind. So
Sure. Orchestrate the wind.
Yeah, all of a sudden a wind would come. See, I told you they were magic leaves. And as time went on, that relationship just kept growing, and we always sort of talked about music and being in a band.
Who did you guys think was the coolest band at that age?
I really loved Motley Crue and Van Halen. Those were big bands for me when I was around 11, 12 years old. And then I think around 13 is when it got into harder metal. Around 12 years old is when me and Mike, we would sit down and play guitar together.
And he originally played guitar.
Yeah. So when we got to around high school, we were like, we want to be like the Replacements. Mike played guitar and I played guitar, and we had rotating drummers. This one kid, Jimmy Brasher, was with us. And we had our friend Sean, who was a really close buddy of ours. And we were playing in the backyard, and Sean was having a hard time keeping up playing bass because he was just a few years behind us. And then one day he had to go to the dentist.
This is such a
It's such a kid thing.
I know.
Get his braces tightened.
Yeah. He had to go to the dentist, and me and Mike and Jimmy, we were sitting there, and I go, Mike, why don't you try picking up the bass? And he was like, okay. And then he played everything that he was supposed to play perfectly.
Wow.
It was sort of this weird feeling where I looked at him and I was like, you know, you're going to be the bass player, right? And he looked at me like, oh man, now I can't play guitar because now I'm the bass player.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. My brother Alan, my oldest brother, told Mike, he goes, you're not a rhythm guitar player, you're a lead bass player.
Oh, that's
Yes,
a good
a
reframing.
spin.
Yeah. Mike tackled that. He's an amazing bass player, totally underrated. His melodies that he writes on bass are gorgeous.
Well, I think the one we should say immediately is Longview, because we're here. You go to the movies, you've got a song in your mind, but you don't know what the bass line is. You come back from the movies, Mike is on acid in the kitchen,
Yeah.
lying on his back, and he's got it.
Yeah. We all lived at this one house. It was 2 or 3 bands that were sharing this house in Richmond. I went to the movies and everybody in the house dropped acid. And then like I showed up because I told him, I go, we really need a good bass line for this song. And then Mike is sitting on the floor. You know, his eyes are like in circles. He goes, I got it. I remember going, yeah, that's cool. I just hope you remember it.
Right. And you don't have a cell phone yet to pull it out and just start recording the audio, probably.
No, nothing like that. But he remembered it. That's the memory that I have. And I hope that that's the memory he has with it.
Does it matter?
No, not at this
It
point.
does. You know,
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of writing stuff about my childhood. My brother and I were in the same place at the same time for these same events. Both of us have completely different memories of it. How on earth could you trust one of us over
Both
the
of
other?
you are wrong is really the answer.
And both are right.
Yeah.
Right? Both are wrong, both are right.
Yeah.
I mean, we definitely remember things differently. I have a really good memory of the early days being in a van and touring. I can remember the houses and the people that we stayed at, and I can remember which gig. It's pretty impressive, I got to say for myself.
But that makes so much sense, right? Because it's the first of everything.
Yeah. I used to wear this pick on a necklace, and it was a Ramones pick, but we played in Cape Cod, and we played with 7 League Boots. Soulside became 7 League Boots. And so I remember playing this sort of Vets Hall, and I looked down and I'm like, oh my God, a Ramones pick. I took it with me and I made a necklace out of it. I just had this conversation with somebody else. She's like, you played in Cape Cod in like 1991. I go, no, it was 1992. I found a Ramones pick. We played with 7 League Boots. And Trey is sitting there and he's going, oh my God, how can you remember all this shit? I think it's being a songwriter.
I got to imagine there's something in the same way that smells activate memories so strongly. They're located close to each other in the brain. I'd imagine there's something about the musical experience. When you're hearing that song or it's coming to you or you're breaking it or you're synthesizing it, I have to imagine that gets stored in a unique way that probably cements all the details that led to it in your mind in a way.
Yeah. One thing that's good about having voice notes on your phone, a melody will hit me in the head and then I'll just sing into it and that'll start the process of writing the song. There's one song on our new album called Susie Chapstick that I did the voice note. I demoed it 4 different ways until I kind of came to like a Teenage Fan Club Pretenders kind of feel to it. So I edited it together, the arc of how the song came about. One day I'll put it out.
All from voice memos.
Voice memos and little piano parts. And at one point it was like a bossa nova. And I was like, well, I don't think we're going to be able to get away with a bossa nova on this record. But
You never know, though. You've gone some places that probably you were shocked with the outcome.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so you move out of your town and you go to West Oakland.
Yeah.
With Mike.
Well, Mike,
Here's the thing about Mike.
we are so close. It is like our story. His mother ended up moving to Louisiana before high school got out. So he moved in at my house with my mom.
Who would notice? There's already fucking 100
So many
people
kids.
Yeah, I know. She was like, give me a couple $100 a month because rent. And then as soon as I had to start paying rent at home, that's when I was like, I'm moving to West Oakland. And a friend of mine hooked me up, big warehouse space full of other bands and artists. It was like $50 a month for rent. I have my own room. That was an eye-opening experience, being on my own for the first time in West fucking Oakland.
Okay, so this is why I relate deeply to you. So we all moved to downtown Detroit and we had a loft. And similarly, I had to come up with $100 a month. And then I'm good. And then we can go to St. Andrews every night and we can get hammered and walk around the city. I imagine the same culture shock for you that it was for me. When you're walking around, you're getting mugged. Like, this is a standard.
Yeah, the sense of danger was always there.
Which is so exciting, though, isn't it?
Well, yeah, there was also this cool thing. I remember we couldn't go to the liquor store after 2. There would be a guy down the street that was selling beer out of the back of his car. So we would go buy 40s out of the back of this guy's car. I had a 77 Datsun B210. My battery would get stolen all the time.
This is what we learned. So first, I parked my car in front of that loft and all the windows got broken and someone stole the stereo out. Standard. So then I'm like, I'm going to leave the doors unlocked so they don't break my windows. They got broken again because people just assume it's locked. It evolved to you had to park with your windows completely down. That was the only way to prevent them from getting smashed.
Yeah.
And it was winter in Detroit. And you come outside, there be snow on your fucking front seat.
You probably had a shitty car. You're trying to get it started in the
I had
cold.
an 84 Ford Mustang GT that I had rebuilt the engine on.
Oh, well, shit.
Yeah.
You're very intimate with the car.
Oh, I was. To
Yeah.
see the windows broken every few weeks was a bummer.
Oh, my God.
That sense of danger I found very intoxicating and arousing.
Yeah, especially moving in with people that were doing the same thing when you're living in a house with 16 people.
Is that how many people were in there?
It was a warehouse. I think at one point it was a brothel.
Oh, wow.
So it was all these kids that had all of these rooms, and we had gigantic rats.
Uh-huh.
And me and my friend, we used to sit there with pellet guns.
Yeah.
We never actually shot any. And then I remember Adrienne, it was the first time she came to visit me.
Who's your wife?
My wife now. And this was in 91. We had a great time together. And I remember she goes, will you come with me? I have to go downstairs to go to the bathroom. And I was thinking about those rats. And I'm like, I'm not going down there. I'm so sorry. I can't be the hero right now.
I'd rather
And
get
I
you
was
a
like,
bucket.
I got a cat box though.
There you go.
Because we have 13 cats too. You know?
No.
Ew.
I'd rather have the rats
Me
than the
too,
13 cats.
actually. Oh.
Yeah. It feels like you're going to find them eating a grandma's body or something.
I mean, she still married you, even though you wouldn't protect her from those rats.
Yeah.
Well, they have a cute story. First tour he ever did with Green Day, they were at a house party in Minneapolis and he met her.
It was 4th of July, 1990. We played, she was there with her boyfriend. And this was the first time we were out of California. And California fireworks are illegal. But right when we got to these different states, we were buying bottle rockets and all this stuff. Her first memory of me is me shooting bottle rockets at her.
Okay. right.
And her boyfriend that was there also.
Sure.
But
Who
then
you hated at that moment.
we played the next night at the Varsity Theater in Dinkytown. And she showed up. I remember she came up to me and we started talking and we were out of records that we were selling on tour. She was, I have a couple friends that are in England that love your band, but they can't get your records. And then I was like, oh my God, this girl is so beautiful. And I was like, here's my home address and my phone number.
And a bus ticket.
Yeah, and a ring. and so she wrote me. And we became pen pals.
Aww.
And so I sent her records and then we started talking on the phone more. And then obviously we just started feeling this connection that was growing deep really quickly.
You basically bamboozle your bandmates into going and adding to cities to a tour later that you have no business going to so you can see her again.
Yeah.
And you've now written 2,000 Light Years Away.
I wrote it that on the way home.
Were the other guys calling you out like, why are we going all the way here for these 2 shows?
Well, I think that they kind of didn't give a shit because we packed our van with like 6 of us. And so we got in the 40 Econo line and we had to drive to Sioux Falls, South Dakota first. Adrienne met me there, and then they quickly figured out. We played Mankato, Minnesota.
You listen to this memory. These are not even towns.
Yeah, we played in Beloit, Wisconsin,
Sure.
and we played in Minneapolis at the 7th Street entry.
There was a
which-
pretty big scene there, though. Yeah, that was probably a good size show.
Yeah, it was just more coming to like a little mecca to be playing where Husker and the Replacements and Soul Asylum. But they figured it out that I was really into her pretty quickly. But at that time, I think Trey may have even been about 17 years old when we made that drive.
Oh, my Lord. You've since had boys. And when you think of them out on the road in a van at 17 going to Sioux Falls, do you think like, I now realize we were quite young?
Yeah. Every time they get in a van, I worry.
Right.
My son Jacob's in a band, but they've got one guy in their band who is a car head and keeps that van in tip-top shape. And I'm like, I don't care where you're driving. It's either 55 or under. Just go slow.
Not the advice you'd expect a rock star dad to
Yeah.
give.
No,
I know.
None of it delivers.
Yeah, just the dad.
Yeah.
There is no rock star dad.
Exactly. There's no
55.
such thing.
Yeah.
Wait, so when did you realize you guys were good?
Honestly, I thought we were always good.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's a
there we- I
great
like that
answer.
answer.
Yeah, I thought from the very beginning when we started writing songs and as we were getting into punk, it came totally natural to us. And we always had it in our heads to evolve. And I think the bands that our peers at that time, except for like Rancid, because they did evolve, for us, it was like we wanted to evolve. We weren't just listening to punk, we were listening to the Beatles and The Who and having that romance of going, what is going to be our Tommy? What is going to be our Sergeant Pepper? That was always kind of on our mind.
Stay tuned for more Armchair Expert, if you dare.
Okay, there's like many things we could focus on that are unique and special about Green Day. 60 million albums for a punk band's impossible. But the things I think are most interesting to me is the fact that you guys have been together for 40 years. This seems like an impossibility.
Just over 30 years.
Oh,
Wikipedia.
yeah, I'm sorry.
Me and Mike have been together for 40 years.
Yeah, oops. Yeah, 30-year anniversary of Dookie is this.
Yeah, in February 2024.
Okay, so there's a lot of elements that can break a band apart. We've seen all of our favorites. So few of them have made it. Metallica did it somehow, and U2, those two stayed together. But it's certainly an anomaly when bands can last for 30 years. And there's obviously a myriad of different pressures that come in. We already have one. You're picking up Adrienne on the side of the road, and they're realizing, oh, this whole thing was about her. Could be pressure number one. Like now there's a new element in focus and all this.
Well, that produced like 5 songs. So, they're like, hey, we got 5 new songs for our next album.
Yeah, I read the sweetest thing you said, that you wrote 2,000 light years away and that you've been writing songs about her for 30 more years. I think
Yeah.
that's so fucking sweet. And that the moment you send her that song, from the outside, we'd all go like, what woman's not going to love getting that song and it's about her? But at that moment, you had some anxiety that like, am I a stalker? I've written a whole song about her. How is this going to be received?
That has crossed my mind more now because of sort of the culture that we live in compared to back then. But I think that some of the stuff, I just thought, this is my gift to you. This is what I think, this is how I feel. I'm able to express myself and do it in melody and heart. And people do really romantic gestures, but for me, that was
your soul. You're like, here's a peek at me.
yeah.
And so if you like it, you like me. And if you don't like it, you don't like me. The stakes are high because you're going, here it is.
It's very
Take a peek.
vulnerable.
Yeah, because there are, I would say back then, girls that I've written songs about, and it was just like,
Ah.
like I better change the lyrics. You know?
How come it took you guys 4 years to get it together?
She was in college in Mankato, Minnesota. She also had a boyfriend.
The same one.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, long
the
term.
recipient of the bottle rockets.
Poor guy.
Yeah. I was sick with just love and I was like losing weight and I didn't really know how it was going to work out, but I sort of knew that we were going to be in each other's lives.
You're kind of just waiting for her to not be with that guy, I imagine.
Yeah.
And so anyone who's coming into your life in that period is like only going to get so close because you know somewhere in the back of your mind, like, when that day comes, I'm running towards that.
Yeah. So I ended up being in Minneapolis for some stuff.
That you acted like you had to be there for?
Yeah. Nah. I called her and I knew that she'd had a breakup.
You're trying to act not too excited.
Yeah, I kept calling her. We were on the very first Dookie tour and we were going to play First Avenue and she showed up. Ever since then, we were together.
Yeah. Okay, so forces on a band, though. Let's just talk about this transition because as you would know so well, and maybe it exists elsewhere. I've not been in other mini cultures to know, but selling out was a real thing for people.
Yeah.
It was the cardinal sin that could be done in
Yeah.
that scene. It was a real thing. Fugazi was about the limit that people could accept.
Yeah.
Their popularity is like, anymore.
That was always there, especially when a band in the punk scene would get popular. All of a sudden, the punk rock cops were taking, Maximum Rock and Roll was starting to look.
Yeah.
So they're looking at how much of your t-shirts are you selling them for? I remember the first time that we went from vinyl to making a CD. They're like, you are pushing a new format on your fans to make more money. And you're like, wow, I'm just putting out a CD because that's what everybody listens to on now.
Yeah. People don't have record players in the dashboards of their car.
Yeah.
But they have CD players.
And then the size of the band is getting bigger. So people that are in the scene start to take notice. And especially where we were from, where it was like the socialist political punk rock capital of the country, if not the world, San Francisco, and especially Berkeley.
The purity demands were quite high there.
Big time.
I bring it up because I think if you're listening on the outside and you're like, well, this is preposterous. You're a musician. You'd want everyone to hear your music. But I'd imagine for you guys, it was a bit of a uncomfortable phase.
Yeah. We'd gotten into some brawls with people. The worst thing you could call a person back then was a rock star. It was like a bad word. So when someone would say it, it was like
They
fighting
want to
word.
be rock star. Yeah.
Yeah. It was tough. The smart people probably would just moved out of that community, but I stayed.
Yeah.
Because when we signed to Reprise, which is Warner's, everyone found out. And we were kind of trying to keep it on the down low as much as possible. And then we made the record. Record comes out. It was a bit polarizing with the fans that we had. Day one fans, back where our records were more lo-fi because it was just no money. We were in the studio for like 2 days. This was the first time we got to be in the studio and really explore sonically how big we can make the sound that represents us the best. And so we had Rob Cavallo as our producer.
Still, he's the one who just produced Saviors. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, a testament to the impossibility that you're still a band 30 years later and you're still working with him.
I'm just very loyal, sometimes at a fault. We made the record, then it just kept getting bigger. It just didn't stop. When we started kind of becoming the poster boys of the punk revival, that's where I was like, I don't want to be known as that. I just want to be known as Green Day. And so when people started using punk more often, and when it came into articles and people talking on MTV and mainstream radio, because as far as those people were concerned in the mainstream media, punk was dead. They didn't talk about it. Now suddenly it's back with us, Offspring, Bad Religion, and people are just talking about it again. That's where the backlash started coming in from the people that were devout.
Yeah, because you make this really insular, sweet thing that defines itself as outcasts and misfits, and you're now giving it to the populace,
Yeah.
which is hurtful. If that was your sanctuary, you don't want to share it with the fucking quarterback from the football team.
Totally.
It's preposterous in many ways, and yet you can also understand the heartbreak.
For me, because I'm coming from it as a musician, it is heartbreaking, but good is good.
No, 1,000%. I'm with you. It's insane the limit that was enforced on everyone. But just the simple, if we get emotional about it, when I would go to a show, you could go to a show in any city in America. You would walk in and you liked the people immediately. That were at those small 100-person shows. You all ate the same shit. Half the people were straight edge. All this stuff was happening. It was such community. You felt so embraced. It was the opposite of high school. And now that same group of people, if they love you and want to continue to see you, they are going to have to go to the arena and sit next to the people that they felt less than around. This is a precarious
But they
thing
could
for them.
also see it as, look what my
We were
people
right.
do. Yeah. So I don't love that.
No, I don't either, but I can empathize with the feeling underneath.
Everyone just wants to exclude everyone. It's like, why can't we just all like a thing that's good?
Because
Yeah.
they had something where they could walk in and feel safe immediately.
Yeah.
And now you walk in and it's back to the real world.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
There's also some things that I look back on. We had a lot of young women that came to our shows. And that was not as normal
It was mostly dudes.
as some of the other punk bands at that time. That was one thing that they made fun of us for. And I'm like, dude, this is low-key sexism.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
like, I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
No,
Exactly.
absolutely
Yeah.
not. But also, the punk scene, at least in Detroit, it was kind of the woke movement. Everyone was minding their P's and Q's. Like, they were actually quite advanced, I imagine, yet they still had that thing, which is counter to it. Okay, so by 23 years old, you're now married, you have a child, and you're an enormous rock star.
Yeah.
Oh my God. To be doing all these major highlight things at once had to be
A
challenging.
lot.
I'm just really impulsive. Adrian came back into my life. It was just a situation where I want to spend my life with this person. I've been waiting for 4 years for her to be available, and I was available. And so we hooked up. There's nothing holding us back anymore.
Well, I would imagine with that gap of time that you waited, I'd be ready for marriage of 3 weeks into dating because
Yeah.
I've really been in this for 4 years.
Yeah, she moved to California. She didn't give her parents the whole story of why. Like, I think she was just out of college trying to find a job, thinking maybe she'd go to New York, testing the waters. You know, it was bullshit. She came out and she moved in with me. And then 3 weeks later, she called her parents and said, we're getting married.
And then almost immediately after that, I'm pregnant, right?
Like, immediately. Our friends pitched in and got us a nice hotel room for our honeymoon. The next morning after our wedding, she's like, you know, I'm not feeling that good. And I was like, well, we haven't exactly been careful. You want to stop by Safeway? And so she did, and she took 3 tests.
Wow.
Sure.
Yeah.
Triple sure.
It was like, I guess we're going to be parents.
Whoa.
Yeah.
23. And also you're a rock star for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah. This was in months. The record came out in February. I was married in July.
Okay. How do we handle all this change?
Oh,
So I'm right in that you have some addiction stuff, yeah? Are we brothers in that?
yeah. I was a drinker back then, but not a big one. I used to smoke a lot of weed.
Well, Green Day.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I don't think I ever knew that. It was the like.
He and Mike loved
impetus.
weed.
Yeah,
Poor.
we smoked weed and we listened to Susie and the Banshees,
Oh.
and then we were like, this is what our name should be.
Yeah.
Did you like the psychedelic furs?
Yeah. Honestly, when I started drinking a lot, it was due to stage fright.
No kidding.
We were always drinking 40s, and it was the thing to do. You could definitely see people that were our age that were way deep into addiction already. As time went on, when I was in my early 20s, all my friends that had no responsibility were going to the bars. And so I would go meet them when I had a world of responsibility and would go meet them at the bars. I was really immature.
I mean, you were 23. Of course, it was immature.
Yeah.
You weren't mature.
Yeah,
Your
in your
frontal
defense,
lobe
you-
was not even fully developed yet.
Right. But my wife was really the opposite. She understood what a child's schedule needs, how to know if they're sick before they're even being sick.
Well, look, you dropped out of high school and she had just graduated college. So you guys are
Right.
different types. Thank God. She's
Yeah.
responsible.
Yeah. And I was impulsive and spontaneous. And she didn't drink at all.
She didn't at all.
I mean, she drank like in college and high school, but as soon as we had a kid, nothing.
And were you experiencing the phenomena of having realized every dream you could have possibly had and then wondering where is the elation that's supposed to accompany this and how do I get that? I'm supposed to have that?
I always said there's a fine line between celebrating and partying. It's
Right.
Like when people are celebrating, there's some joy. There's something that happened that was like, whether it's
Worthy
like
of commemorating with a celebration.
a bachelor party, a record that just came out, doing a movie for the first time. You're at the after parties and blah, blah, blah. But then like partying has like a darkness to it.
Yeah.
Because I think people get to a certain point where they've had a bad day. I've earned this. This is the relief, and I'm going to make sure I'm puking in the morning.
Yeah.
I think I had a mixture of both. There was much to be grateful for and having a good time and working hard and putting out a new album. But there would be like the stress about making a record where you're working so hard on how the hell am I going to follow up Dookie?
Yes, the pressure of that must
Yeah.
be daunting as hell.
And that's when the partying kind of kicked in and that darkness.
You need an escape from the pressure.
Yeah, I would spend a lot of hours down at the bar. I'd go out and tell my wife, hey, me and my friends are going to go get some drinks. And in my mind, I'm going, I'm going to go down there. I'm going to have a couple beers and then I'm going to come home.
Right.
Maybe stop at Taco Bell on the way home.
Bring her back something special.
Yeah, but next thing you know, we're closing down the bar. They know who I am, so they'll keep the bar open for another hour.
Yes.
And then we're just shit-faced.
Right.
And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
come home, and then the next morning, I couldn't get out of bed. You have a son that's been up way before you.
And then the shame sets in.
The shame.
And now you got to drink more because the shame's there.
Well, I would try to get my shit together. I mean, that's the last time. And then either something celebratory or some kind of release that I needed to have. And it just was this cycle that started off on the weekends, but then all of a sudden you would be on tour. I would get really bad stage fright. So I'd have a couple beers before we go on. And then that turned into 7 beers before we would go on. And then you get the adrenaline and you get off stage and you keep the drinking going.
Yeah.
Well, this is the other thing I wanted to ask you about is that crazy dichotomy between what you experience on the stage and then 9 minutes later, you're in your hotel room.
Yeah.
And you're like, what do I do now? I don't think it's a natural experience for a human to have. And I don't think it's super easy to navigate that enormous chasm between that experience and then back in a hotel room by yourself.
On tour, there was times I would go into my room, I sit there, and I would know that my bandmates and crew were in the bar.
Yes, yes.
And I'm sitting there, and you're just like white knuckling it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I find, oh, fuck it. I'm going down. And they're like, Billie! It was like, Norm, you know. Everyone's happy to see you. Here, let me go have a drink.
You need something to like lower you back down to reality. It's not an easy transition, I don't think. I can't even imagine being in a stadium with that amount of energy and humanness. and
Yeah.
the power of it.
I did 5 years of sobriety, and then I fell off, and now I'm sober again.
Is your life generally better when you're sober?
Fuck yeah. Especially now, the second time I've been sober, all alcohol does for me is get in my way. It gets in the way of my relationships. It gets in the way of being productive in my music. And it gets in my way of enjoying the things that I like now, being 51-year-old man. Even just taking a hike in the park, I get more gratification from.
Yeah, and also don't you think like once you start drinking, you're basically just hitting pause on any forward momentum in any relationship, any forward momentum in your life. And as you're running out of time, you're like, I can't really hit pause.
Yeah, then all of a sudden you're like, I've got to be the phoenix rising from the ashes, you know, of cigarette butts and tequila and beer and whatever human garbage can that I feel like right now, you know.
You can get romantic about that part.
Yeah, because then all of a sudden you're like, see, I could do it. And then you're like, well, you're just going to do it again.
Yeah, you're on fucking repeat. That's
Yeah.
all that's happening. So of the pressures, again, it's astounding you guys have been together for so long. There's the fame, there's the success, there's marriages, there's whatever, everyone's relationship with substance. What of those elements has been the most challenging? And also, let's just go, you basically got married to someone at 10 years old, and you're just praying you grow in symbiotic ways where you can still coexist and create together.
Yeah.
You and Mike, right? Like, this is a lot to ask from a relationship that you would all grow in a way that stays compatible.
That's a hard one to answer. We've had a very similar experience going through life, and whatever happened with Green Day, we had all done together every single step of the way. Sometimes it could be as simple as going, I got a new song, you want to hear it? And then I'll do a demo and I'll play it. They get the fuck yeah. That has never left.
That's a blessing.
Yeah, or like, this song is sick, bro. You know, and then, all right, well, I'll write 11 more. You know? And then we get together and jam and shape the song and arrange it, see what it needs, leave Mike and Trey add their parts and things like that to it. We're writing bass lines and Trey writing some of his signature amazing drum parts. And then all of a sudden it becomes a Green Day. And I just think we just love what we do. It's hard work, don't get me wrong, and it's stressful. But when we end up with like an album that we're proud of, that's our addiction.
Right.
Have
And
you
that's the
guys-
bond.
Yeah, but have you guys had to learn how to talk to each other and communicate? Like we have, for sure.
Yeah.
There's been so many almost, we're not doing this anymore moments.
Yeah.
We've had to learn how each other needs to
be
receive
spoken to,
information.
yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely times where I've been kind of a dick to try to get my way. about something. And there's times where I feel like I'm not being heard or
Underappreciated, undervalued.
yeah. And then I could say the same thing about them. We're always able to have those deeper conversations about feelings.
Yeah. Well, it's the thing that probably brought you together initially. There's something so beautiful about those friendships that start at 10 years old. There's a level of built-in goodwill and benefit of the doubt that you maybe can't really offer to people that enter your life later.
Inevitably, we've always been able to hear each other and been there for each other when times got hard for any of us, whether it's been like a divorce or death in the family or someone has gotten ill. We've always tried to just be there. It's really unique.
Yeah. Did you watch Some Kind of Monster?
Yes.
Did you find that enthralling? Just really quick, that's the Metallica doc. And
Yeah.
they have to bring in a psychologist to help the band.
The psychologist was a good call. You know, it was hard to watch
That's what I would imagine.
because I always thought of them as being like the mighty Metallica.
The closest thing we had to Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, there was more of a mystery and mystique about them. There was just like that muscle of like
Yes.
being Metallica. All of a sudden you're watching this shit go down and you're like, oh my God, these are real people having real problems.
And Hatfield in particular, I'm like, oh, wow, yeah, that man.
Yeah.
They're like man's man. He's fucking hunting boar in Russia. But he's also drinking a half gallon of vodka. And he's sad and miserable and lonely and scared. Whoa.
Lars trying to navigate through that and then having a member of the band quit, him just trying to be the guy to pull it together.
Hold everything together. He's like the person in the marriage that wanted to fight for it, and a lot of people didn't want to. That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah, well, that's sometimes why people fight, because they're fighting to keep it together. They're not fighting to fall apart. In a good relationship, when you get into those deep arguments that you get hurt feelings, you know, I'm so sorry I disrespected you, but just know that I'm fighting to keep this together, not fall apart.
Right. That's important to know a lot of times.
Yeah. It was a tough watch just seeing them so vulnerable.
I'm so delighted they released that, though. I think that's like the most helpful thing they could do.
It was just like right out in the open. And when they started the documentary, they had no idea where it was going to go.
No.
They thought they were documenting the new Metallica album.
They're going to sit down and write a fucking awesome album, and that was going to be that. They're in the Presidio. This is going to be cool. So glad we'll be capturing this.
Yeah.
And then no.
And it's funny because whose decision was it to go, keep rolling the cameras?
Well, Berlinger, I think that's the name of the documentarian. He is incredible. I think he also did the My Brother's Keeper. He's a deep fucking, like, he was the man for the job on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned it. Of course, after Dookie, there must be anxiety. I'm curious what the emotional journey is from like Dookie to American Idiot, because it happens again in a way. I want to know right before American Idiot, have you started to accept the insane, crazy thing happened? That's that. Maybe you're at peace. Does this come out of nowhere? How do you deal with all that? The second wave of like mass appeal.
We put out Dookie as an album. It was just phenomenally huge. And then Insomniac, it's interesting because it comes to metrics for people, because like the next record sold, I don't know, over 1 million. When the gatekeepers are looking at it as something that's not successful, all of a sudden you're burdened by your own success.
Yes.
So you're trying to get away from it.
I could almost come to hate that album if I were you. Like, fuck, that thing fucked us up. We're selling 1 million and people are disappointed.
Why did we call the record Dookie? We just named it after shit. For God's sake.
You're paying the price.
But we ended up having songs on that like Brain Stew, which was a big song for us. And then we did Nimrod, and we were trying to push our boundaries more, getting into stuff that's just different rhythms and acoustic song, like with Time of Your Life came out on that record.
Let's take 1 second for that song, because this is an interesting story. You were at a party with a girl, a college party, and dudes pulled out like an acoustic guitar or something.
Yeah,
Is that the
it was
legend
a
of
bunch of like ponytail guy types.
But you weirdly walked away from it and you're like, I kind of want to try this acoustic guitar thing.
Yeah.
And then this song, again, you can't aim for something like this.
No.
It happens. And then to see it, like Monica was just saying on the walk-in, she's like, I'm pretty sure
I
my
think we sang
chorus
it
sang
in
that
chorus.
song.
Yeah.
And I said, of course you did.
God.
God, I
like
wish
it,
I had
huh?
a snare drum right now.
You like it. Stop acting like you don't like it.
Well, it's the second time you said it.
No,
Now.
it was better the first time. But you hadn't heard it.
I know.
But anyways, of course she sang it.
Yeah.
And as you said, it's played at wedding ceremonies and funerals and bar mitzvahs. That is a thrilling experience.
Yeah, and the song, it's about sort of a bittersweet breakup and trying to have a level head about it. This is a goodbye.
You know what? It's kind of similar to Taylor Swift's The One.
I wish I
Do
knew
you know
more.
that song?
I don't.
Okay, because I have two little girls, so I'm like now exposed to all of it.
Yeah.
And that song is fucking awesome.
There's
and
so
the
many that are
lyrics
great.
are, it would have been so fun if you were the one.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's this bittersweet song, like, we're not going to do that, but I would have loved it if it could have been you.
Yeah.
But it's not, and that's that. There's something
Yeah.
beautifully bittersweet about it.
And I think it just caused people to sort of associate it with memories.
Yes. And hopefully being able to, because I've even heard you talk about it, that it's a very impactful song if you've lost somebody, because what it urges you to do is just be so fucking grateful for the bubble you had. It's so tempting to focus on not having the bubble anymore, but just urging everyone to go like, yeah, I got that for a minute. Maybe I'm making it more than it was in your head, but to me,
It was very important for me when I wrote the song to say, I have hurt feelings, but no hard feelings. It was trying to be as level-headed as I can about a split
Yeah.
between two people that meant something to each other. Those things can end pretty ugly, and
Yeah.
you have a bad memory.
yeah.
So I remember the first time I played it live in front of people, I was scared to death. We were playing somewhere on the East Coast.
Was the old punk rock shadow that said, don't
Yeah.
be a
Oh, yeah.
sellout, yelling in your head. You didn't-
Totally. And I was like, okay, this is what we're going to do. Because the song was out and it was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so I was like, well, I got to start playing this live. So I go, I'll play it in the encore. I'm going to walk off stage. And then when I walked off stage, I pounded 2 beers and then I put my guitar on.
Your 2 pieces of armor.
Yeah, yeah.
The 2
yeah,
beers
yeah.
and then the guitar's the
Yeah,
armor.
my brass knuckles.
Yeah.
So then that was the first time I did it and people loved it. And I go, well, maybe I'll just have 1 beer the next time I do it.
For people who might not be knowing that song.
It's a good song.
Oh, so pretty.
It's so pretty.
It's outrageous. I was like getting emotional listening to it.
Another turning point, a fork stuck in the road.
I'll do the harmony.
Time grabs you by the wrist, directs you where to go. So make the best of this task and don't ask why. It's not a question, but a lesson learned in time. It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life.
Yes, great.
Oh, you bastard.
Oh my God, I can't believe we got you singing to your
bastard.
song on
Me
it. This
welled
is so
up and
perfect.
singing. What a moment. Oh.
Yeah.
But that song, do you think, I mean, not the first one, but that one is the one that really became like on the radio every 4 minutes. Pop radio.
It transcended all the
Everything.
normal barriers.
Yeah, it was something that I became so proud of because when I think about some of my favorite songwriters, whether it's Paul Westerberg or Elvis Costello, they had that in them. And I think if you really want to test your merit, it's how deep are you willing to go and how vulnerable of a position you put yourself in.
Vulnerable. That's the key word.
Yeah. Stop hiding behind the distortion. You have to go to a place that you're afraid of going to.
Listen, if you just stayed there with the distortion, that's the teenage life. And it means you're not moving forward.
Yeah.
The distortion's coming down and down and down, hopefully, as all those things that made us scared to be vulnerable. You're further away from them. If you're not doing what you do with this song, you're just stuck.
Yeah.
But there is a voice, right? The shadow's going like, we're jumping the shark on this one. We're going to lose everyone we had. And
Yeah. Worst case scenario.
everyone's right. I was a pussy the whole time.
Yeah, I know. I'm exposed. And here it is. This is what you wanted. Yeah, I'm at the gallows. Chop my fucking head off now.
Everything you thought I was. Okay. I wrote down things that you and I seem to be both into. Chimps. I'm fucking obsessed with chimps.
Oh, my wife started a chimp sanctuary.
Oh, amazing.
You should come check it out. Project Chimps, and it's in Blue Ridge Mountains in Georgia.
Oh.
And it started off, it was a gorilla sanctuary, but her and a bunch of other people, with my help too, Kat Von D got involved. Judy Greer is involved also,
love
her and
Judy.
her husband, Dean Johnson. And we started this sanctuary. Some of these chimps have been tested on, whether it's makeup. They've been in these 6x6 cages their whole life. They set up these like suites where there's still an enclosure, but it's twice the big as this room for like 4 or 5 chimps. But there's an open door that they go out to, and there's over 200 acres.
For them to frolic on.
Yeah, to frolic on. And whenever they decide to come back in, they open the door and they come back in. And some of it's the first time they've ever put their feet on dirt and grass.
Oh, wow.
And some of them are in their 20s.
Have you had any escape?
Nope.
That's shocking because, the LA Zoo has the Chimps of the Mohali. That's the name of the enclosure. They spent a gazillion dollars designing it with the best zoologists in the world. They built it for years. They put the chimps in. Day one was out in 6 hours.
Oh my God.
In the LA Zoo.
Oh my God.
Yes. And then they're like, okay, we figured out what we did wrong. We can't have that branch that close to that. Fix that. 2 days later, 2 got out. You're not smart enough to keep a chimp in. I'm shocked none have gotten out.
No, there's only one link between us and them, and they've probably got the better link.
Have you watched Chimp Empire?
Yes. So good.
Whoa, what a doc.
That whole chimp system of the hierarchy, the big colony, and then this smaller group of chimps that come in, they need food. It's like, we got to get a hold of that tree. It's a life or death situation.
It's also human. The weight of the alpha is just a miserable fucking existence.
It is.
They need sweetness so much. They adopt these orphans, the alphas. It's the only outlet they have for any vulnerability or kindness or love. And you're like, oh, that's men.
Yeah. And then there's the paranoia of knowing that there's this other chimp that's ready to make a coup at any moment.
At all times. That's all he's thinking. Jackson, maybe? I don't know if that was the rival. But yes, it's just all around you. And then when the other troop comes in, you're first one in.
Yeah.
Ooh, what an existence.
Stay tuned for more Armchair Expert, if you dare.
Okay, Serena Williams is his biggest fan ever. Every time she's been anywhere playing, she leaves matches early to come see.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Number one
awesome.
fan. Her number one song is Disappearing Boy. She requests it every time.
Yep. We have to play it every time she's there.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, she's great.
Dying to have her on as well. Have you been surprised by anyone who's a huge fan?
Oh, Gandolfini.
Oh, wow.
James Gandolfini was a huge fan of Dookie and would listen to it in his trailer while he was filming The Sopranos.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, I was like, I don't care if anybody else likes us.
Tony Soprano.
Tony Soprano trumps everybody.
Loves Green Day.
Yeah.
That's pretty special.
Okay, so Saviors. Also, I just want to say that the father of all, that track is so fucking nasty. Speaking of your drummer.
Oh, yeah. That's one of my favorite songs we've ever put out.
It's so nasty.
Yeah.
In the best way.
Yeah.
The fact that you were listening to Motown and stuff as you were going in to record that album and incorporating and infusing the dust of that is incredible.
Yeah, thank you. I love the way Trey plays on that song. It's great.
Okay, so Saviors, 14th studio album, recorded in London and in LA with Rob, who we talked about already. Why there? Is it fun? I have a parallel question, which is writer's block, inspiration, how on earth you nurture that thing. And then I got curious immediately as if going somewhere and getting away from everything that makes you comfortable, part of that process.
Yeah, we just wanted a break from being in America and doing the same thing over and over again. I love British music. I love British rock and roll, whether it's the British invasion to punk rock to Britpop. I wanted to breathe that air and be in that. And then you get this romantic feeling. You know, I would walk to Regent's Park every day, and then I would walk to Rack Studios.
What are some things that were recorded there? Did The Who record there? Like, what nostalgia are you?
Mickey Most, which was a big producer. He did a lot of Suzi Quatro. And I mean, everybody's recorded there through the years. Liam Gallagher, he's there a lot. I didn't want to go to Abbey Road. It's too much pressure or something. You made the 2 greatest rock albums of all time. It's a little hard to live up to that. That was too much of the Shadows.
I could definitely believe that. I don't want to be in here.
Yeah, yeah.
The bar has been set in here way too high.
So we went to Rack. It's a great studio. We recorded one batch of songs. How much of the new record have you heard?
I've heard 4 of the songs. And I've watched the video for The American Dream is Killing Me. Very cool video. You went the zombie route.
Yeah, the song has politics and it's topical. But when I think of The American Dream is Killing Me, I was thinking like, this sounds like a horror movie. It's like The Purge. We were like, well, let's just dress up as zombies, and it's before Halloween. So we had a lot of fun making that.
Oh, I bet.
No one likes to spend money on music videos anymore.
Right.
We spent our own money. What else are we going to spend our money on? Let's make something that lasts forever that people are going to want to see, instead of like, well, I mean, I like old cars, but I mean, I have enough old cars. But we released it as a single, and we released another sort of B-side single as like a 1-2 punch. Green Day, we're back.
Yeah. And then now you're going on a stadium tour around the world.
Yeah.
And how have you learned to do those tours? Do you plan differently for them?
There's bigger production. We'll do like a week of looking at new stuff.
Gadgets.
But as long as it doesn't take away from the live experience of, this is my guitar, check it out.
Yeah.
Yes. You don't want to be overshadowed by anything.
No, I'm not going to.
Come out of a cocoon?
Yeah, come out of a cocoon. Stonehenge comes down.
That's a Spinal Tap reference.
Yeah, it takes a lot. We're going out with Smashing Pumpkins,
Thrilling.
Rancid, and the Linda Lindas.
That's in the U.S. And then you have another batch of bands that'll join you in Europe.
Yeah, we're playing with different bands everywhere.
I'll never forget the first time I saw Smashing Pumpkins Latin Corridor, Detroit, 93. What an experience. Again, talking about that emotion I was craving, they just brought it. They were like, it can be all things. It can be almost all emotion.
Yeah, I remember where I was at the first time I heard Bullet with Butterfly Wings. I was in my car driving, and it came on, and I was like, this is going to be huge. This song rocks so hard. And then they came out with 1979, and I was like, this song is going to be huge. What a difference between this aggression and intense feelings in one song and this other sense of, when you can do nostalgia the right way, and like a song like 1979, it's not just some kind of rehashing or trying to hold on to your youth, but acknowledging it.
Yeah.
Billie, he's a great songwriter.
Who during your run at the top would you hear and think like, oh, fuck. There's been some famous rivalries that brought out the best of a lot of people. The most famous being the Beatles and the Beach Boys, or many of these bands are inspired by each other, threatened by each other, animated and driven by each other. Hearing the Smashing Pumpkins in the 90s, were you like, oh boy, okay, I got to be extra good at my job?
I think so.
Not because you even want to beat them, but you just want to rise to whatever they've just done.
Yeah, I think there was some of that with like the Offspring at the time, and there's that with Oasis. You're hearing something that they're doing that you haven't touched yet. Sometimes you listen to a song and you hear something that no one else hears. With Oasis, it was like, if you haven't been to England, people like to sing. He wrote a perfect album for people to sing along to.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It was a different kind of stadium song that he started, Noel and Oasis and Liam.
Were you sad when Shane MacGowan died the other day? Did you care about the Pogues?
I was, but it's not like I didn't see it coming.
I was almost shocked he was still alive, if I'm being dead honest. I was like, I guess I would have assumed we lost him earlier. But it did bring me back to my deep fucking love, particularly when he and Sinead O'Connor had paired up. That stuff was insane.
Yeah, and the fact that they both passed, these Irish icons
Yes.
in the same year, that was intense.
And it reminds you that so often the catalyst is so heavy. What you're loving and feeling is the product of great trauma and struggle and sadness, and it's all in there. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And the weight of it and managing it and having the right dose of it, I feel like is the actual art form. And that's something you guys have done, weirdly. You've like kept the right amount of it, but not been buried by it.
Right. I don't know why I started thinking about Sinead O'Connor.
Let's think about her. Did you see the doc on her?
I did. It was great.
I cried uncontrollably. My wife started filming me. She came into a room and I was just like uncontrollably sobbing. When she would get on stage and let it fucking rip despite everything.
Yeah. It's very challenging for people to be that honest about everything.
Yes.
And there was a quote that I heard. She was in an interview with Shane. They started talking about death. And she goes, I'm not afraid of being dead. I'm afraid of dying and the process of that. Being dead, you're dead.
You're not there to be upset.
Hopefully you'll be into a new spiritual world after that. And I was like, damn, that was so honest.
She was insanely honest and fucking beautiful and powerful.
So important to people our age at that time to have someone that came out on MTV, beautiful, singing this heart-wrenching song, Nothing Compares to You, completely bald. This was a moment that was like really important.
She was a revolutionist.
Yeah.
Okay, so the 4 songs I've heard are brilliant. They're you guys. Everything is still perfect, shockingly. It's truly, truly applaudable that you guys have been doing it and never
really cool.
losing your direction and always figuring out how whatever your secret sauce is of staying hungry enough and staying creatively inspired. I don't know how you do that, but it's impressive.
Thanks. It's always about the fundamentals. I love punk rock. I listen to it every day, whether it's new bands, old bands. It's weird. I live in a pretty nice house. I'm 51 years old and I still listen to punk rock like every day.
Yeah.
That always fuels me to keep the vitality going.
When's the last time you listened to Tortoise, Millions Living Will Be Dead?
I never got into Tortoise.
We interviewed Fred Armisen, who was in
Trenchmouth.
Trenchmouth.
We played with them
Oh, you did?
Oh,
in Beloit, Wisconsin.
Back to Beloit.
Yeah. In Beloit, Wisconsin, we played with Fred's band,
Yeah.
Trenchmouth.
No shit. Well, he was saying for them, Tortoise was the big threat. It was like, how did this band do that? And just having read a quote from him saying that, I was like, oh my God, Tortoise. I love them so much. Why haven't I listened to them in 20 years? And then I had 2 weeks of just listening to Tortoise every day. I love going back and remembering how in love I was with these things.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
so fun. Okay, well, Billie Joe, this has been so exciting and fun. And I hope everybody gets Saviors. And I hope everyone goes and sees you on tour because it's the show of a lifetime. And you guys are fucking awesome. Oh, the last thing I wanted to say about you. Did you ever think of ZZ Top?
As a 3-piece?
Yes.
Power trio?
To make that much sound
What do
with
you mean? You need-
three people. So ZZ Top is only 3 people, which almost seems impossible.
Yeah.
And you guys are very similar.
Well, Billy Gibbons is one of the best rock blues guitar players of all time. And he knows how to fill that space. It's his style that makes it work.
You're in a very small group of folks, though, right? The 3-piece?
Yeah, but live, we're not a 3-piece.
Well, let's not focus on that.
Okay.
It destroys the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, I mean, we've made records. Sometimes it's like, well, let's not do guitar solo because we don't have another guitar player to play it. But let's make the 3 chords be the guitar solo. The way Mike plays bass, there's these hidden melodies that are all over the place. So we're filling space that normally a 4th or 5th member would have. Trey plays off of my vocal a lot. And then my guitar plays off of
His beat.
drumming.
It's like you're passing it back and forth.
Yeah, and then Mike is sort of like the doo-wop singer doing the low end kind of thing. It's something that we've been able to do. Mike and Trey have a lot of flash about the way that they play, which is really fun to hear. But if you think about it, The Who, they're a 3-piece band.
That also is impossible. That's the biggest sound ever.
Yeah, they're a 4-piece band because they have a lead singer, but the music behind it, the way that Entwistle and Keith Moon were able to play off of each other. Keith Moon is just insane drummer. He was inventing shit that he was doing on the fly. That filled up and makes a bombastic sound. And that's something that we were able to do is 3 individuals be able to make the biggest noise.
Be greater than the sum of your parts.
Yes. It's like conflict, it's love, it's joy, it's fun.
It's not addition, it's multiplication. You double the thing before you, and
Yeah.
then they double the thing behind them.
That's the root cause of some of the arguments.
Oh,
You know?
Yeah, I bet.
You're in my fucking way. You know, it's get rid of that damn tom. You don't need
I
it.
can't even hear myself think.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Well, again, this was fantastic.
Yeah.
I hope everybody checks out Saviors and sees you live. And I hope you do this as long as you want to. I mean, it's just incredible.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, such a pleasure. Please, please, please let Jason know what an indelible mark he made on me and how often I've thought about him over the last 30 years, having just hung out with him for a couple nights.
Awesome. I will, for sure.
All right. Be good.
Bye.